We're going to create a radial plate cam for our assembly using datum curves. We're going to create the curves defining the profile. Then we're going to create the cam with an extrusion feature. Once we've done that, we're going to create a central hole and then create a sketched radial hole and pattern that in order to finish our cam. So let's go ahead and start by setting up our working directory. I'm going to create my working directory in my removable drive in a folder called assembly. I'm going to create a new part and I'm going to call it plate cam. And then click OK. And I'm going to begin by going to the model tab and going to datum to create a datum curve from an equation. I'm going to reference this part by selecting my coordinate system. So I've selected my reference. I'm going to go to the drop down menu and select cylindrical. And then I'm going to select equation to edit the equation, and I'm going to type in r is equal to 1 plus 0.5 times 1 minus cosine of 180 times t minus 0.25 times 1 minus cosine of 360 times t. Then I'm going to select theta, or type in theta is equal to 90 times t, and z is equal to 0. Once I've done that, I'm going to click OK. This is the equation for a cycloidal rise, and once you finish that, go ahead and click OK to close the feature, and notice how you have your first part of the curve. So we're going to do the same thing and add the other part of our curve, which is our cycloidal fall. So go ahead and go back to model and then select curve once again. Curve from the equation. We're going to reference our curve on our original coordinate system. Once we've done that, we're going to drop down to cylindrical again and edit our equation. So we're going to type up r is equal to 1 plus 0.5 times 1 plus cosine of 180 times t minus 0.25 times 1 minus cosine of 360 times t. Theta is now equal to 180 plus 90 times t, and z is once again equal to 0. Go ahead and click OK. If you get a relations error, you have to go back and look through your equation to determine what it is that you did wrong in terms of your system. So in my case, I forgot a multiplication sign, so I'm going to click OK and add my multiplication sign right next to my 0.5. And then I'm going to click OK once again. And now I have the second part of my curve. And then I'm going to click OK to exit the feature. I'm going to close off my curve by going to my Model tab and then selecting the Dwell Datum Curves feature, the Sketch tab. So go ahead and hit Sketch and then go to the front datum plane. I'm going to click the Sketch tab. What I want to do is I want to reference these features that I already have. So I'm going to go to my Sketch tab and select my References tool and then click on the two curves that I've just created. So once I've done that, what I want to do now is I want to add an arc, center, and ends. So go to the center where your origin is and then go from one end to the other. And then we're going to do this one more time on the other side. So select one end and go to the other end of my sketch. Once you've done that, and we want to hit OK to close the sketch. We want to go to standard orientation, and we want to generate an extrusion for the profile that we've just created. So go to the model tab and hit extrude, and what we want to do is we want to define this extrusion on the previous sketch plane that we've just created. So go to the placement tab and then hit your define and then select use previous. And now notice how our sketch plane is in the original plane that we just had. So go ahead and you can hit sketch view, and what we want to do is we want to project this whole curve onto this plane. So go ahead and hit your project button and select all of the curves that we have on the graphics area, and we want to make it a single chain. So go ahead and click single and then click close. Now in order to exit the sketcher, we have to make sure that this is a solid piece. Notice how you have the red areas here. So if we zoom in, you're going to notice that these lines overlap a little. So what we want to do is we want to delete those segments so that we get only one segment. And we want to do this on both sides. And once we've done that, I'm going to click OK. And notice how it's still giving me an error, so I'm going to zoom in once again on the other side. You can zoom in with your mouse or you can zoom in with a tool. And in this case, I have to not delete, but add a line from this point to this point. And notice how once you've done that, you'll have your shaded area yellow. So go back to sketch and hit OK to exit the sketcher. So what we want to do now is add a depth of 1. You can orient this so that you can have your top plane in the back. Click OK and exit the extrude feature. Go to standard orientation. And what we want to do now is add a hole. So go to your hole feature, select the front surface, and we want to reference this hole right at the center. So I'm going to drag my green diamonds onto both planes. I'm going to double click and make both dimensions 0. And that centers our hole right where the origin is at. And I want to change the diameter of my hole to 0.5 and make sure that this is a through wall. Once I've done that, I'm going to click OK, and now we have our center hole finished. Now if I go to my front view, you're going to notice that this feature seems a little small for the hole that we just created. So what I want to do is I want to edit my curves, the initial 2 curves that I created, so I can make this feature bigger. In order to do that, we need to suppress certain geometric shapes that we've already made. So we want to suppress the sketch, the extrude, and the hole. That way we can edit curve 1 and curve 2. So let's go ahead and highlight these in our model tree. Right click and then hit your suppress. And notice how they're going to be gone from our model tree once we confirm. So now that we have this, what we want to do is we want to edit the definition by changing our equation. So you go back to your equation and edit your equation, and we're going to change this 1 to a 2. Once we're done, click OK to exit the feature, and we're going to do the same thing to curve 2. So edit your definition, edit the equation, and change the 1 to a 2. Click OK, and then OK to exit the feature. Now that we've done that, we want to get everything back. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to standard orientation, and I'm going to go to my model tab, go to the operations menu, And then what I want to do is I want to resume all the features that I had suppressed. And notice how I have my cam back. But this time, if I go to the front view, you're going to notice it's much bigger than what we had initially created. What we want to do now is create the 4 sketched holes in our part. So go back to your model tab and click your hole. And in the hole tab, we want to open up the sketcher. Once you've clicked on the sketcher, you want to click once again to activate the sketcher to create a section. So click on this button, go to the sketch tab, and we want to create a center datum line. Create a vertical line. And after you've done that, with our line tool, we're going to create the profile of our hole. So what we're actually creating is about maybe half of a T. Go ahead and hit your scroll key or escape. And what we want to do now is edit all these dimensions. So go to your Modify Dimensions tab after you've selected one of the dimensions so that you can get your dialog box. Once you have your dialog box, make sure that you unclick Regenerate. Click all your dimensions and start editing them. The first dimension is going to be 0.55, then 0.375, and since the height of our T is 1, we can say 1 minus 0.375, and that'll give us that particular dimension. And then this bottom or this middle part is going to be 0.375. Click OK. And you have your profile completed. We want to exit the sketcher by clicking OK, and then we want to place our hole. So go to your placement tab and select the surface where we want to place it. What we want to do is we want to click a radial type. That way we can reference our hole on the radius where our origin is at. And then go to your top datum plane, and that'll give us a radius and an angle. The radius is going to be 1, and our angle is going to be 45. Now that our hole is defined, we're going to click OK to exit that hole feature. The last thing to do is to pattern our second hole. So highlight your hole on your model tree and go to your pattern tool. And what we want to do is we want to select an axis pattern. We're going to click right on the axis where our origin is at. And we want to pattern this hole 4 times. And in between this hole, we need 90 degrees. And once we've done that, we're going to click OK to exit the pattern tool. And we're going to have our feature completed. So now that we've finished our part, we want to save our part. And we want to close our part.